Alright, we're going to go over setting up the throttle linkage here. It's a little different on setting up a gas or throttle linkage versus the nitros. The first thing you want to do is, as I mentioned before, you want to get this throttle arm on the carburetor moving pretty symmetrical, through center, even throws on either side of center. So just, kind of eyeball it, get it to where it needs to be. Then what we're going to do is we're going to set this up so it has a mechanical gain in it. The lower end of your throttle on the gas engines is really touchy, so we're going to set it up so with lots of servo movement, we're going to get little throttle movement, and then it also makes it quicker in the top end. So what we do is you need to try and first of all get your throws so you get around 100% on either side, which is you can kind of get it and you kind of can't, so I'll explain here a little better. But the first thing you want to do is pull your throttle down to 0 and drop your trim. Now you want this, if you look here, you want this servo arm to be pointing back at the throttle barrel, okay, the throttle servo, or the throttle arm. Now I don't have it directly back, I've got it down just a little bit. I found that worked best for me. Some people say to have it straight back, but where I ran into problems is getting it to shut off with my trim, so I just go one notch down from being pointing straight back. So that's where we want our servo arm, that's how we want it positioned on the servo. So that's bottom throttle all the way down, trim all the way down, and then we have it pointing that way. Then the next thing that I do is I go ahead and put my trim back to center, go to full throttle, and then I adjust this link so that when I pull to full throttle, it mates up on there. So it's probably kind of hard to see here, but when I go full throttle, now it's going to sit down on there, and now I've got my correct link length. So I'll go ahead and snap that on. Now that's how I go about setting mine up. This will pretty much, I found by doing it this way, gives you a nice idle somewhere around center trim. You may have to go 1 or 2 clicks one way or the other depending on your engine, and how it tunes or whatever. But you're going to find too that when you bottom out your trim, it's going to bind just a little bit. So, which is not that big of a deal, just don't ever drop your throttle all the way down. So, as you can see, now we've got our travel set up. That's full throttle, and that should be about idle there, and then just drop it a couple of clicks to shut her off. So that's how we'll go about. So remember, we'll go over this one more time. You want to get your throttle arm positioned so that it bottom stick, trim all the way down, it's pointing back at the throttle arm. Then go to full throttle. Pull this over and adjust your link so that at full throttle the link's the correct length. Get my hand out of the way so you can see that a little better. Then snap it on, and then that should be good to go. So that's how we go about setting up the throttle servo.